Asato ma sadgamaya tamaso ma jyotirgamaya mrityurma amritam gamaya. Om Shanti. Light, lead us from death to immortality. Om, peace, peace, peace. So we've been looking at the 15th chapter of Ashtavakra. Let's chant the two verses that we have done, two shlokas, 4th and 5th. Natvam deho nate deho, natvam deho nate deho, bhokta karta nava bhavan, bhokta karta nava bhavan. Chidruposi sada sakshi, chidruposi sada sakshi, nirapeksha sukham chara, nirapeksha sukham chara. Ragadvesho manodharmo, ragadvesho manodharmo, namanaste kadachana, Namaste kadachana. Nirvikalposi bodhatma, nirvikalposi bodhatma, nirvikara sukham chara, nirvikara sukham chara. Ashtavakra is saying that you are not the body, nor is the body yours. You are not the doer, nor the experiencer, the enjoyer, or the sufferer. You are the nature of pure consciousness, ever the witness. Live freely, happily, in freedom, not dependent on anything. Nirapeksha sukham chara. Likes and dislikes, raga dvesho. These are qualities of the mind, attributes of the mind, not your attributes. Even the mind itself is not yours. You never wear the mind, nor is the mind ever yours. You are beyond all thought constructs. Nirvikalposi. Bodhatma. The self is of the nature of consciousness. Atma, self, you, I. Our nature is consciousness. Nirvikara, unperturbed, serene. Serene and unperturbed. Live happily. Sukham chara. To see what all this means, let us try this. Do you settle down? Yes. You don't have a place to sit? There's a place here. You can come here. So let's try this. We are very clear that we exist. This awareness that we are, this sentience awareness. Gently close your eyes when you're comfortable. You don't have to participate in this, but if you want to feel what we're talking about, gently close your eyes when you're comfortable. Are you still there? And a response would be good. Some of you are not confident. Yes, I am still there. I have closed my eyes, so I cannot see you, Swami, but I am still here. I am thinking, feeling, I can hear you, so I'm still here. Now, imagine this, that if you could not feel, the sense of touch goes away, sense of smell goes away. I cannot touch, I cannot even feel my body, I cannot smell anything, nor taste anything. I'm still here. Yeah, I'm still here. Now suppose none of the senses function. I'm afraid to say I cannot hear because you stop hearing then. So let me be a disembodied voice, which you can still somehow hear without hearing. And so if all the senses were shut down and I would not have any sense of hearing, seeing, smelling, tasting, touching, I would still be there, a thinking entity. Now suppose all perceptions are gone. Now suppose all thoughts and emotions and ideas stop. All memories go away completely. I don't even know my own name, what I am. I don't know what I am because I can't sense my body. I don't remember who I am. All sense of language drops away. I cannot formulate any thoughts. Yet I'm still here. Let all perceptions, thoughts, ideas, sensations, memories, personal history, all drop away. I am still here as the witness of the blankness. Imagine the deep darkness of deep sleep. No awareness of the world, no awareness of the sleeping body, no awareness of the resolved mind which has gone back to the seed state. Just blankness, darkness. No awareness of even I am sleeping, that also is gone. No memory, no sensation, no conception. Just the blankness. Appearing that blankness is also experienced. It is illumined by this witness consciousness. This knowing nothing is also a kind of knowing or witnessing. I still exist without sensation, without thought and memory, as the witness of darkness, as the witness of blankness. And now, I, the witness of this absolute void, this blankness, now, with one movement, with one final effort, drop both, the blankness and the witness. Drop both, let both go. If sensations, thoughts come up, drop them until there is absolute quiet and blankness appearing to you, the witness consciousness. And then, with one sudden movement, drop both, the witness consciousness and the blankness. When you feel comfortable, gently open your eyes. What we did there is not only Advaita Vedanta, there's a little bit of Kashmiri Shaivism there. It's a technique from Vijnana Bhairava. You see, what I was trying to get us to appreciate is that I am the witness of all experiences and the lack of experiences. The witness of seeing, and if there is no seeing, then you're witness of not seeing. Similarly, witness of all the sense inputs, and if all the senses stop, still the witness of the absence of sense inputs. Witness of thoughts and the witness of the disappearance of thoughts. So finally we come to the witness. I am the witness, the subject of all objects, physical or subtle. But even in that, when I'm the witness of the blankness, there is still an element of mind. Subtle. If you try hard enough and settle into that absolute quietness, it is still not the pure witness, the Atman. It's inevitable. For most of us, for a long time, the mind will still be there. In a very subtle, attenuated form, if you do it deeply enough, not for 2 minutes, for hours and hours every day, then even then the mind will still be there. There is a technique, it's not an Advaitic technique, it's a technique from Kashmiri Shaivism. They try to trick the mind into enlightenment. What they do is they give a last suggestion, but the movement is a violent movement in the mind. The last suggestion, where the mind is fully convinced, I am the witness consciousness, and I'm witnessing the blankness, all quiet, the void. It's still the mind. So there, give a suggestion to the mind, drop both in one sudden. I can't teach you how to do it, but I think intuitively most of us understand what is being said. Do you understand? Yes, you feel. When you do that, it's not a doing, it's just a suggestion to the mind. The mind, it's like water whirling down your sinkhole, it whirls away into nothingness. Even for an instant, you're plunged into something beyond any thought, any language, any expression. Now that is where the best expression I found is in Dzogchen Buddhism. They call it the clear light of the void. So the witness of the blankness is also not the clear light of the void. When you can drop both, the absolute blankness and its witness, where a little mind is also mischievously present there. You can drop both if we can. That nameless, impossible to describe, formless, and yet it is illumination. That one is called, a good description is the clear light of the void. Imagine deep space between sun and the earth. It looks black, absolutely dark, but it's flooded with light. Just that there's nothing to reflect it. If a comet passes through it, you see the tail of the comet shining. If a satellite goes up, you can see it flickering in the light. So it's light streaming from the sun to the earth, but space looks dark because there's no object there. Similarly, consciousness, when the mind is in that state, I won't say that state of consciousness. Consciousness is always the same. Right now it's also the same. But when the mind is put into that state, then consciousness is like that. Like light flooding the darkness of space, and yet it looks dark, nothing. This is what we are talking about, what Ashtavakra has been talking about. At least one can get a hint of what they are talking about. That never goes away. When you drop all objects, imagine, suppose death, the body falls away, the mind is unable to function for a while, and then the mind functions in other realms. But it's like the deepest sleep possible, and yet consciousness illumines that. So that awareness we are. Alright, so we are here. And yet, this is not non-dualism. This is the grossest dualism. Why? Because difference is still there. In our present state, we limit the subject to the body. I am this body, and anything apart from it is not me, the other, which is our usual way of dealing with the world. Now, what we have done with all this analysis and insight is that we have consigned the body and the mind also to the realm of objects, and we are that clear light of the void, the pure consciousness, Bodhatma, awareness self, Chidrupo, so you are of the nature of pure consciousness. Alright. But then what about the mind and the body and the external world? All those objects are still there. So it's still a multiplicity, not non-duality. After all, what does Advaita say? Brahma Satyam Jagat Mithya Jiva Brahmaiva Napara. Brahman is the only reality, a non-dual reality. If it's non-dual, there is no second reality apart from it. So what about the world? It's an appearance. That's the meaning of Jagat Mithya. It's an appearance. And Jiva, we, who are we? We are that absolute reality. That has not yet been established. Because here there is still a real world and a real body and a real mind. Yes, I am just the witness of it. Alright. So now there are two great questions. At this point, there are two great questions. We will arrive at that non-duality now, in the next 15 to 20 minutes. But there are two great questions before us now. One question is, I see so many people here, and I understand the witness consciousness, but how many witness consciousnesses are there? There are 100 people here, so are there 100 witness consciousnesses or one? That's one question. This pure consciousness, witness consciousness, whatever you call it, and self, which is the nature of awareness, whatever you call it, is it one or many? Our immediate answer is it seems to be many. Why does it seem to be many? Because there are many bodies present here. Are there many bodies, first of all? It's not a trick question. Yes, there are. You just have to count. You have to take a head count and see there are 100 people, 150 people. So there are many bodies present here. And are there many minds present here? Yes, though you cannot count it that way. But if you ask people their descriptions, if you ask what are you thinking now, what are you feeling now, describe your sensations, you'll get 150 descriptions. If you give a psychology questionnaire, you'll get different attitudes, different points of view, different answers to the questions. Obviously, the minds are different. What he knows, she does not know, and what she knows, I do not know. Knowledge is different. Memories are different. Each of us has here, each mind has its own personal story. Personalities are different. Clearly, there are 100, 150, and in the world there are billions of bodies and billions of minds. But is the consciousness behind them, the consciousness which we just talked about, tried to appreciate, is that one different in each body and mind? That's the big question. Some of you are shaking your head because you are good non-dualists. But the common sense approach, we just feel that it's different. It should be different in each. And if you feel that each of us is a witness consciousness separate from the other, just like our bodies are separate and minds are separate, in that case, this is called Sankhya, the philosophy of Sankhya, a very ancient philosophy in India, which is pretty close to Advaita Vedanta, but they differed from Advaita Vedanta in certain aspects. One is it's called Bahupurushavada, that means there are many selves. Each is infinite consciousness, but many selves. Each is different from the other. It's a lot like the German philosopher Leibniz. He is regarded as one of the inventors of calculus, along with Newton, of course. He was a great philosopher, and his idea about the self was what he called monads. He has a book on monadology, where he says each of us is like, imagine stars in the night sky. Stars in the night sky, a brilliant shining point of light surrounded by vast darkness and forever separated from other points of light. So that's a very beautiful but a very lonely kind of... So that's what we are, according to Leibniz, and according to Sankhya also. According to Patanjali also, the yoga philosopher. Yoga philosophy of Patanjali's, Kapila's Sankhya philosophy, these are dualistic philosophies. They say that they're separate selves. So that's one point where Sankhya differs from Advaita. Another point where Sankhya differs from Advaita is, Sankhya says this world is real. You are consciousness, this world, your body, your mind, they're all real. And they are all part of nature. It's very scientific that way. They're all part of nature. So nature, Prakriti, extends from the physical world of matter, time, space, energy, matter, to part of which is our body, to even subtle levels like mind, prana, mind, intellect. All of these are all part of Prakriti, nature. And you are a separate consciousness. Each of us is a separate consciousness. So is that true? Advaita Vedanta says, no, we are one consciousness. Many bodies, many minds, but behind them, one consciousness. How can we understand this? This, what we did a little while ago, without the body, without the sensations, without the thoughts and memories and perceptions and our personal story, the unspeakable, unobjective, pure subjective consciousness, if I ask you to describe it, 150 people here, different bodies clearly, and if you ask you to describe your thoughts and feelings, different descriptions. But if I ask you to describe that awareness, you'll all say the same thing. You can't say it feels like that, but whatever it is, there's no distinguishing characteristic. It's the same thing. You will feel Your description will be the same thing. Do you see what I'm trying to say? If you ask all the beings in this world today, human, non-human, whatever, non-human cannot describe anything, but the consciousness, if you say apart from body, apart from mind, apart from the personal story, the undeniable awareness behind it all, which persists even in deep sleep, even when you drop the mind altogether, that one has no distinguishing characteristic. Their description or whatever they would try to say about it would be the same. If you were to ask Ramana Maharshi, or Sri Ramakrishna, or Swami Vivekananda, describe that awareness beyond the body and mind, what they would say and what you would say would be the same. I'm not saying on the mind. Yes, if you ask Swami Vivekananda, what are you thinking about? How do you feel? There'll be obviously exalted thoughts. And maybe there'll be a tremendous heart and feeling for all, a complete unselfishness, a complete purity. All those are in the mind. They're all in the mind. So that is quite different. That will be an amazing thing for us to think about. But beyond that mind, that which illumines this extraordinary mind and heart of Vivekananda, that consciousness and what you would describe are the same. Take a great scientist, Stephen Hawking or somebody, what they're thinking about, maybe totally beyond our comprehension, the mathematics of black holes and cosmology, whatever it is, I can't understand. But the awareness that shines upon that mind, that extraordinary intellect, way he would talk about it, or the way we all would experience it, experience within quotes, is the same. Then why say each body and mind has a separate consciousness? Or look at it this way. Our waking experiences are very different. Right here, 150 of us, we are sitting and experiencing this thing. But each of us is experiencing from a different point of view. The way this hall looks from your angle and the way it looks at from my angle, different. Our experience of each thing is different for each person with a body, and each body and mind experiences the same thing differently. Waking experience is unique for each body and mind. And our dreams are also unique. For each mind, when it's dreaming, separate dreams. They're different dreams. When you describe it, different dreams. But your deep sleep, my deep sleep, his and her deep sleep, our experience in deep sleep, experience of deep sleep. When we wake up and we compare notes, won't they be the same? They have to be. It's a featureless blankness. Has to be same. How will you distinguish one featureless blankness from another featureless blankness? It's an important point. To distinguish two things, you must have distinguishing features. Now, my point is, if our deep sleep is exactly the same for every being, including non-human beings, animals also sleep. Even ants sleep. Yeah. I found a paper online. No, really. It says a paper online, it says, like, we have two kinds of sleep, REM sleep and non-REM sleep, rapid eye movement sleep and non-rapid eye movement sleep. So rapid eye movement sleep is usually associated with dreams, and non-REM sleep is usually associated with deep sleep. How do you know? If you wake up the sleeping subject, they will report dreams when there is REM sleep going on. If you shouldn't wake up, it's cruel, but if you wake up the subject in non-REM sleep, they will report no dreams. So deep sleep, and roughly. And the paper said ants also, they have RAM sleep, rapid antenna movement sleep. Now, if I can't say it for sure, but if the distinction applies to human beings, maybe they are dreaming. They're dreaming of maybe a sugar cube or something like that. And they have what the paper said, they have what is called micro sleep. They suddenly stop and the REM sleep starts. And then a few seconds later, they're moving again. So, anyway, even an ant or Brihadaranyaka Upanishad says this. When we go into deep sleep, whether it's a mosquito or an elephant or a human being or a lion, Same experience in deep sleep. Our experience of deep sleep is same. The point I'm trying to make here is this. If the experience of deep sleep is same, then the consciousness which illumines deep sleep, how much more same would it be? Wouldn't it be exactly the same thing? It is one consciousness. It is the same consciousness. Gita says, Sri Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, Avibhaktam cha bhuteshu vibhaktam iva cha sthitam. One and undivided in all beings. That one exists as if divided. Bodies are divided, clearly. Minds are divided, clearly. But that consciousness seems to be divided, but it's actually one and undivided. Yeah. The Sankhyains don't give up so easily. You wouldn't expect them to. Oh, that reminds me, Professor Gerald Larson, it's good to speak of him. I just heard yesterday that he has passed away. He was a very well-known philosopher. Vrajaprana Mataji in Santa Barbara told me. I didn't know that. He's a well-known Sankhyan philosopher, American professor. He's written a number of very good books on Sankhya. I saw him once in the Institute of Culture in Kolkata. There was a conference going on consciousness in Indian philosophy and consciousness in modern consciousness studies. So they got stuck at deep sleep. I think most of the audience went into deep sleep when the pundits and the scientists were arguing about it. It was maybe mind-numbingly boring. Now, Larson asked a question which broke the deadlock. Larson asked, there was a neuroscientist who had come from England. Professor Larson asked him, Doctor, tell me, in modern medical science, in physiology, is there consciousness in deep sleep? Now, what he said, it has changed now. Now they are saying there's the latest discoveries that there's a kind of basal consciousness in deep sleep also. Anyway, at that time they would say no. So, is there consciousness in deep sleep? And the neuroscientist said, yes, we have an operational definition of consciousness, and according to that, there is no consciousness in deep sleep. There's no consciousness in deep sleep, according to neuroscience. At that time, now it's changed. No consciousness in deep sleep. And Professor Larson said, well, according to Indian philosophy, Sankhya or especially Advaita, there is only consciousness in deep sleep. This is the difference. There's no consciousness in deep sleep. There's only consciousness in deep sleep. What do you mean only consciousness? What I said earlier. Unless light has an object to reflect off, it will look dark. Unless there's an object for consciousness to be aware of, it will seem that there's not only no object, there also seems to be no consciousness also. All right. So, Sankhyains don't give up so easily. They'll say, no, separate consciousness. They will give arguments. But those arguments are easy to shoot down. Now we are ready, armed with Ashtavakra. Let's see if you can shoot down the Sankhyan arguments. One argument. When one person dies, the other persons are alive. How can they be the same consciousness? Tell me the answer. When one person dies, others are alive. How can they all be the one same consciousness? Only the body dies, obviously. It's a no-brainer almost. If you think of yourself as the body, then this is an argument. This is a convincing argument. Yeah, I'm here. That guy is dead. So how can we be the same? No. From the point of view of consciousness, this body has died, so it's not expressed there anymore. That body is still alive, so it's expressed there, manifested there, illumining there. Consciousness has not died. All right, the Sankhyan comes back with the next argument. When one person is sleeping, the other is awake. See, mind is shifted to mind now. So one person is sleeping, the other is awake. How can it be same? This person is not conscious, that person is conscious. How can they be the same consciousness? Answer? The mind, yes, correct. What sleeps? The mind. What awakens? The mind. What dreams? The mind. Not consciousness. That's why in the Mandukya Upanishad, some people translate 3 states of consciousness. They're not 3 states of consciousness. They're 3 states of the mind. Consciousness has no states. It is ever the same. We just read, Sada Sakshi, ever the witness. Witness of what? Waking. Ever the witness of what? Dreaming. Ever the witness of what? Sleeping. So what was awake, what dreamt, and what slept? Mind. And of course, associated physiological changes in the body. Sankhyan objection does not stand. It can be the same consciousness. In one mind, the one mind is asleep, another is dreaming, others are awake. All illumined by the same consciousness. More subtle objection. Many people have asked, if I am the same consciousness, I am consciousness, right? Yes. Gotcha. If I am the same consciousness, then I am aware of this body and mind and thoughts. Why am I not aware of the thoughts and perceptions of the other people? I should be aware of all bodies and minds. Why not? This is a tough one. This is a tough one. Yeah. But how do you prove it? It's the mind, but how do you prove it? There is a thought experiment which you can do. You see, this question was asked in a very poignant way by a young man from Netherlands. Many years ago, the Malaysian Airlines, the one plane, they lost 2 planes. One was lost, literally lost, still not found now, and another one was shot down over the Ukraine. So, one young man wrote to me, I was in India at that time. He said, my girlfriend was on this plane which was shot down over Ukraine and she died. So if we are one consciousness, can I know the last thoughts of this person who before she died? So he was probably a young boy who was very sad when he wrote this. I had to say, no, you cannot. Even if we are one consciousness, you cannot. Because the minds are different. That mind has gone on its own journey. Yes, what complicates the matter is that you can actually know the thoughts of another person, but that's yoga. There are special powers in yoga by which one can know the thoughts in another person. But Advaita says, just because we are one consciousness does not mean we'll know the thoughts of every mind. Why not? It seems a reasonable thing to... See, this is how the mind plays. It's still the mind which is asking this question. You see, just consider this. We just said in deep sleep, our experience is the same. Yes or no?
Yes.
When does our experience begin to differ? The moment we dream or wake up. What is dream or wake up? Mind starts functioning. The moment mind starts functioning, our experiences begin to differ. Consciousness gets different experiences in different body minds. Correct? So all those experiences which are variegated, different, our dreams and our waking experiences, which is what we are asking about, they depend on the mind and the individual mind. Did you get what I said? If you take the mind out of the picture, our consciousness will have the same experience everywhere. That's why you can literally say, I know through and through what is your experience in deep sleep, what is Vivekananda's experience in deep sleep, anybody's experience in deep sleep, I know through and through in deep sleep. But not when the mind is dreaming or awake. That's different. So that's also answered. It is the mind. That's why we cannot know. Again, what complicates the picture is there are philosophies which say that there's a certain state of elevation of the mind through spiritual practice when one can actually know the thoughts of all others. But that's not Advaita. In Kashmiri Shaivism, there is a state, they call it Purnahanta, where one is identified with the cosmic body of Shiva. I'm now out of the syllabus. Ashtavakra would be impatient with me. I can see him muttering hocus pocus. Because if you say that, what I'm just saying now, that you would know through all bodies and all minds, then that would be an extraordinary experience, a special experience. Until we have that, we cannot say for sure. But Ashtavakra, remember, he never swerves 1 inch away from our common experience. And he goes straight to the absolute. So that experience of experiencing all bodies and minds together, that is the level of Ishvara or Hiranyagarbha, for example. So that can be theoretically possible, but Ashtavakra is not concerned. He jumps ahead. That's the scenic route. Ashtavakra goes straight up to the top. So Sankhya is dismissed. It is one consciousness in all bodies and minds. That's one great question. How many consciousnesses? One consciousness in all bodies and minds. In the Bhagavad Gita, Sri Krishna says, 13th chapter, one of the most profound sentences. in the Gita. Kshetragyam chapi mam vidhi sarva kshetreshu bharata. O Arjuna, know me to be the knower of the field in all fields. What are the fields? Each body mind. We feel, I know this body mind here, and they know theirs. But Krishna says, I am the knower of the field in all bodies and minds. There is one consciousness in all bodies and minds. And incidentally, that is what Vedanta, Advaita Vedanta calls God or Ishvara. Consciousness associated with all bodies and minds. So there is one consciousness in all bodies and minds, and we are that. Which means we are one with Krishna. Krishna says that's the meaning of that thou art. You are one with Ishvara, but only as consciousness, not in the sense of the cosmic or the individual. Cosmic individual differences are still there. First question. So one consciousness, not many consciousnesses. Second question, the second great question. Two questions. Second great question. I'm just doing the groundwork for what Ashtavakra is going to unload upon us next. Big bombshell is coming. The second question. All the objects of consciousness, which Sankhya said they were real. There's a world outside. There are these objects. There's the cup. Now, this objects of consciousness and consciousness itself, all the objects and subject, what is their relationship? What I mean by that is it like, is consciousness, think of consciousness as the light. And think that this cup of water, think of this as an object. It represents the universe. That represents consciousness, this represents the universe. Now there is a separate universe which is lit up by consciousness. Yeah. Universe, object is something that is presented to consciousness, quite outside. See, this is separate from that light. I can take it out and show it to you separately outside, without that light also. And the light can be there and illumining this cup, or this cup can also be separately experienced. They are two separate things. This is what Sankhya wants to say. Are they like that? No. And then you are too non-dualistic, already jumping ahead. Why not? Why not? Well, I'll give you the one way of reasoning this. All this Ashtavakra says homework, you have to do yourself. So, how do we know that these objects cannot exist other than consciousness? For two things to be appreciable separately, then only you can say that they exist independently. See, two things are separate. How do you know? Only when you can see one without the other. That story of, you look at the grandfatherly old gentleman and you think, are they dentures or are they real teeth? Are they really part of his mouth? Because whenever he smiles, the teeth are there. So are they really part of his mouth or are they dentures? How will you know? The only way is suddenly you turn up at his room late in the night, early in the morning, and he opens the door with a cute, toothless the smile, and you see the dentures grinning there in the little box there, and you say, they are separate. Why? I can see them separately. But if there is no possibility, I'm saying this very interesting, if there is no possibility, even in principle, if there's no possibility of seeing one thing separately from another, then you have no right to say that they're two separate entities. Now, can an object be experienced apart from consciousness? It's a trick question. When I say experience, already consciousness is involved there. So define experience, very simple. Advaita has these very elegant definitions. Consciousness plus object is equal to experience. Very simple. Eyes plus book. Experience. Of course, mind is there, light is there, all of that, but eyes plus book. Pramana prameya. Knower, the knowing instrument, and the known object. What does it give? Prama, knowledge, experience. Ears, sound, experience. Mind, thought, experience. Right? So, consciousness plus its object gives rise to experience. Now I'm asking, is it possible to experience an object without consciousness? Obviously not, mathematically. Consciousness plus object is experience. Now, is experience possible without the consciousness? No. You cannot experience an object without consciousness. Now, what right do we have to say that, to claim that an object can exist without consciousness. Are you with me? If not, you can ask. We'll go into Q&A very soon. What right do we have to say that the object can exist by itself without consciousness? That's our common sense way of looking. Do you know why it's our common sense way of looking? That's how we experience the world in waking state. Not in our dreams though. When we wake up after dreams, we say that all of that I saw was in my mind. It's not that the pizza I was eating is waiting for me in the dream world, in my dream refrigerator. When I go back to my dreams tonight, I'll take it out and finish up the pizza. No. It does not exist apart from my dreams, apart from the dreaming mind. That I am very convinced about my dream world, but I am not convinced about that in the waking world, because I experience this as a separate object. But consciousness, without consciousness, object cannot be experienced. Impossible, by definition. Then, object is not separate from consciousness. If the object is not separate from consciousness, notice, we can see it on experience. In all our experiences are not waiting out there to be illumined by consciousness, rather they are in consciousness. Right? They are in consciousness. How? Let's take it step by step. In consciousness, like this hall, the space of this hall, we are all in this space. We are all in this space. Similarly, consciousness, imagine it like a vast blue sky or a vast space in which all experiences are floating around. Not outside it. There's nothing outside it. But further, let's go deeper. We are all individual separate entities in the space, and the space is separate from us. It gives us space, but we are not the space and the space is not us. Is it like that? Go further. It's Ashtavakra will claim, no, that's not the way it is. All objects are nothing apart from your experiences, and all the experiences are nothing apart from the consciousness in which they are experienced. They are like waves in an ocean. The wave is not apart from the water. The waves are in the ocean, in the water, and nothing other than the water. The waves, it's not that there are waves and there is the water. No. The waves are in the water. And even more true to say, 3 stages. Each wave, if you take a wave, in the wave there is water. But a truer statement would be, the wave is in water. 2 statements. In the wave there is water. Is that really true, or isn't it more true to say, in the water there is a wave? Right. Because before the wave there was water. Not the other way around. Before water there was a wave, a ghostly wave. No. The wave was, before the wave there was water. And then the wave appears in the water. It is the water itself which comes up as a wave. And then the wave subsides. It's still the water. After the wave also water is there. So the wave appears in water, not separate from water. It's not like us who are separate from space, sitting in space. Not even like that. All experiences and objects are like waves in the ocean, in the water. They are all objects, experiences are like waves in consciousness. Yeah. So there is one ocean of consciousness in which all objects, all minds, all personalities, all bodies, and all objects which are experienced in the world, they come up like waves in this ocean of consciousness. Nice. I'm part of that, right, Swami? Not a part of it. You are all of it. You are all of it. There's no part and whole relationship there. You are it. So, Ashtavakra is saying, you are this limitless ocean of consciousness. Why limitless? Where is the limit between water and wave? This table and the wood. Table and the wood. There's a limit between table and the book. See, here's the table and here's the book, and there's a limit, there's a margin. But between the table and the constituent wood, where is the limit? Where will you make it tiny? If I slice it, then the table will come out and the wood will remain? No, it's impossible. It is the wood alone appearing as the table. It's the water alone appearing as the wave. It is the gold alone appearing as the ornament Ornament, wave, table, these are names and forms and functions. Reality is the wood, the water, or the gold. All the objects, whatever we experience, they are names, forms, and functions. The reality is consciousness, you. Awareness, you. This awareness is the only reality. Follow this carefully. Apart from this awareness, there is no second reality. Apart from the water, there is no second thing called a wave. You say, count the waves in the Pacific Ocean. Swami, around 10 to 11,000, depending on how much wave. But I say, count the waves and the water. There's only one thing, water. Can you count 10,000 waves plus one water? No. If you count the water, you cannot count the waves separately. It will be double counting, because each of them is water only. Similarly, if you count yourself as consciousness, there is no second thing apart from you. Even your mind is a wave in you, the ocean of consciousness. Even your senses and body and the things that we see, hear, smell, taste, touch, they are waves in the ocean of consciousness which we are. No second entity in the universe other than consciousness, and you are that thou art. No second, Advaita, non-dual, not two. You are the non-dual consciousness. Always where? Are, will always be. This is what Ashtavakra is now going to say. Now when we chant these verses, we'll see, already we've got it. Verse number 6. Sarvabhuteshu chatmanam, sarvabhuteshu chatmanam, sarvabhutani chatmani, sarvabhutani chatmani, vijñāya nirahankaro, vijñāya nirahankaro, nirmamastvam sukhi bhava, nirmamastvam sukhi bhava, sarvabhuteshu chatmanam. In all beings I am, the self alone is in all beings. We just did that. One consciousness in all beings, not many consciousnesses. One consciousness in all beings. We just did that. Some of you looking puzzled. When did we do this? Not only that, go further. Sarvabhutani chatmani. All beings in me, the one consciousness. That was the second big question. Two big questions. How many consciousnesses? One. How many beings? Many. How many minds? Many. How many bodies? Many. In all these many bodies and minds, how many consciousnesses? One. Sarvabhuteshu chatmanam. Okay, one consciousness in many beings. So what is it to me? You are that consciousness. Ashtavakra says, one self in many beings. Okay, second big question. What is the relationship of all these objects and beings to the consciousness? They are all in consciousness, not apart from consciousness. Sarva bhutani chatmani. All these beings are in the awareness which you are. Vijñāya, realize this. Not just know it, not just memorize it, not just chant it, not just think about it. Realize it to the point where you can say, yes, it's true. It's the greatest fact that is there in the life. It's true. Vijñāya. This is the next step after, Swami, I understand it intellectually, but that is not Vijñāya. After that will come Vijñāya. There is no more but after that. Yes, it's true. Then Nirahankara Nirmama. There is no I and mine. When all is I, then which one is I and not I? Which one will you say, this is I and that is not me? This is I and that's the other. Which one will you say? Practical life will continue. But really, truly speaking, isn't it all you? Swami Virajananda ji was the president of our order, a great Swami. He says in one place, the universe is presented together at once to me, the awareness. Either all of it is false or all of it is I. Either I am all of, or he says this way, either I am all of it or none of it. Isn't it true? The entire universe, including your body, your life, your personality, is presented to you, the awareness, in one flash. What do we normally do? This much is I, and these are mine, and that's you and yours. Samsara starts. Samsara starts. But if it's all presented, including body and mind, then it's all I. Or None of it is I. It's either all me or none of it, not even this body and mind. Both will work. They're the same thing basically. One is all of it is Brahman, I the consciousness, or none of it is real, I am Brahman. Both will work. What traps us in samsara is I am this and this is mine. And you are that, and those are yours for the time being until I take it away from you. Then samsara starts. I love this story of the desert fathers. In early Christianity, they went out into the desert in Egypt, and many austere monks were there, very devotional, austere, very spiritual people. So two monks, they thought, brother, we must experience how people in the world, they quarrel and fight over things. So here is this thing. It's a brick. I will say it's mine, and you will say that it's mine. And then we will quarrel. So we'll get the experience of possessing and quarreling. The other monk said, yes, brother, let's start. So this monk said, here's the brick. It's mine. And the other monk said, it's thine. Now, how will samsara start? How will samsara start? This is from the devotional angle, but the same idea here. Then it says, Sukhi bhavan, thus be happy. We'll just read the second one and seventh one, and then we'll go into Q&A. I hope you've got questions. Vishwam spurati yatredam, Vishwam spurati yatredam, Taranga iva sagare, Taranga iva sagare, Tattvam eva na sandeha, Tattvam eva na sandeha, Chinmurte vijvaro bhava, Chinmurte vijvaro bhava. The entire universe appears like waves in the ocean which you are. You are the ocean of consciousness in which the entire universe appears like waves. That thou art, tattvameva, na sandeha. There is no doubt about this at all. Chinmurti, O embodiment, O whose form is consciousness. What is your form? This body. What is your form? These thoughts. No. Your form is consciousness. Stand as consciousness, not as a body or a mind. You who are, whose form is consciousness alone. It's formless. You who are consciousness alone, vijvaro bhava, forever be free of this fever of life. This fevered life. Jvara means fever. We are living as if fevered, anxious, unhappy, like chased through life. Be happy. Relax. Take your time. Time is your servant. Space and time and the material universe, they are your servants. Nothing can affect you. Nothing has affected you. Notice one thing. From beginningless time till now, stars and planets have come and gone. You're still here. You're here right now. You're here. I was reading Emerson. He writes very beautifully. I can't exactly quote those words. I am and I will be. In his diary he writes, stars and planets, systems and solar systems, stars, planets and solar systems may be wiped out of existence, and yet I am, I will be. He was reading the Upanishads. And the commentator there, I was reading a book about Emerson's writings. The gentleman probably does not know the sources which Emerson himself knew very well. So he says, here Emerson is talking not about the eternity of God, he's talking something about himself. Obviously, if you know Ashtavakra or the Upanishads, you know what he's talking about. I am, I will be, I am that ever-present consciousness. Yes. Questions? Raise your hands. Yes, the gentleman here. And then, who else? Somebody here. Yes. Yes.
Maharaj, when you were saying that when you're in deep sleep and when you wake up, you're first experiencing the mind. So, and hence that's why we are not able to know other people's thoughts, right? Other minds, and not able to experience other minds. So, it looks as if you're saying that the faculty of experiencing is also within the mind, and it comes
Yes.
with the mind.
Yes, not experiencing. Because when the mind shuts down, without the mind, deep sleep, that's also an experience. Is deep sleep an experience or not? There's opinion will be divided on this. Why? Because it does not seem to be very much. And yet you cannot deny that we say after waking up, I slept happily. I did not know anything at all. Sukham aham aswapsam nakinchidave desham. I did not know anything at all. Every culture, every language has words to describe deep sleep. I slept like a log. I didn't know. Bengali we say ghumiye kada. It says I slept like mud. Like mud. And if you think of Bengal, the heat and the humidity, now you understand what will happen when you wake up. You'll wake up as a puddle. And therefore the expression I slept like mud. Now it means in every culture we are reporting something like that. Other than waking, other than dreamless sleep, other than dreams. So it must be a kind of experience. So what it is, the way I describe it is this. Deep sleep is not an absence of experience, it's an experience of absence.
So what is the object at that point?
What is the object at that point? Advaita Vedanta will say ajnana, ignorance is the object at that point, blankness. What happens there is, from your perspective, everything is curled up into like a little seed. There is no external world for you. There is no body and sensory system for you. And there is no mind with dreams for you. All of it is still there. It will come back again when you wake up, when the mind unfurls. But it's like the mind is withdrawn into it. So that resolved state of the mind, that is called ajnana or bijavastha. Mandukya Karika calls it the seed state. That's the object.
If we look at it like that, then if we go a little bit beyond, then there is no experience at all.
Again, you're saying, I just said, it's not no experience. It's an experience of nothing. It's an experience of absence.
Ignorance is the object over there. Beyond that, there is no experience.
Beyond that means?
I mean,
beyond that, there is only consciousness, which is the experience, which is the very essence of experience.
But how are you aware of it? I mean, it looks as if that whatever remains there is jada.
Exactly. You're right. It is the mind which is thinking. Follow carefully. When the mind thinks upon consciousness, without mind and without any senses, what it looks like is like nothing. Think about the concept of light flooding deep space without any object to be reflected off from. What does it look like? Dark. Will you say there is no light? Of course not. It's full of light. But it looks completely dark. Yeah, thank you. But this goes very deep. Kashmiri Shaivism, for example, their objection against Advaita is this. They say the pure consciousness, they call it Prakasha Swarupa, the pure consciousness talked about by Advaita, the self or Brahman, which is pure consciousness, it says it's jada, it's as good as nothing. It's as good as being a rock. It's useless and it is not even aware of itself. It cannot reflect upon itself. So in their system, in Kashmiri Shaivism, they say that their ultimate reality is called Parashiva, the ultimate Shiva nature. And what's that? Not only Prakasha, not only light, not only consciousness. Prakasha Vimarsha. Vimarsha means the consciousness is also conscious of itself. And that's the final state. So, and there are answers to that. Just Chandradhar Sharma, for example, written a book in which the last chapter is a criticism of Kashmiri Shaivism from the Advaita standpoint. You just it takes a few sentences to tear apart the whole thing to shreds. When you say consciousness and reflection upon the consciousness, there's an element of mind is still involved there. Yeah. Okay. Yes. Next. This gentleman. Okay. Yeah. You have to ask in the microphone. Point it towards yourself. Yeah.
Attempt to stand up for Sankhya.
Point it towards yourself.
Maybe being more argumentative separate entities which never merge, which will always be different.
Independent, yes.
Independent. What is Chitta? And I know that this dispute goes on for millennia. And then when Advaita puts it together seamlessly, is it because of our cultural preference for seeing the Atman, the soul, as an entity that we recognize, we give it credence? Whereas here, the Buddhism depends so much on Sankhya, draws so much from Sankhya. And they're comfortable without having to link it up because maybe they don't pay that much credence to the individual soul, which for us sticks in the craw, because we say, okay, who then inherits this karma, who's incarnating, we get stuck at that point in that debate. And for them, if you do not raise the issue of the supremacy of the soul that has to have a continuity, then we wouldn't be really uncomfortable with the narrative of two separate entities, because we are comfortable with recognizing Chitta for what it is and Jada for what it is, and also accept that the mind is Jada, which at first is kind of startling, and then we realize, of course, it is. Do you think the difference really is because of a cultural preference?
It's a very deep question. It runs very deep. Mircea Eliade, who was a professor of religion in Chicago University, he was in Calcutta. La Nuit, Bengal, the Bengal Nights, he wrote that book. He was a student of S.N. Dashgupta in pre-independence India, from where he learnt yoga. So his preference was always for Sankhya and yoga, not so much for Advaita. He says perceptively that this Sankhya is the most ancient philosophy. Swami Vivekananda also acknowledges that. Kapila, the writer of the Sankhya Sutras, he says the first philosopher. Kapila stops at consciousness and object. Object is real, consciousness is real, they interact. Where do they interact? In us. We are the interactions of consciousness and matter, object. He says, Mircea Eliade says, from that ultimate duality of consciousness and matter, Shankara took one track and the Buddhists took another track. What Shankara did was, he merged matter, Prakriti, back into Purusha. Consciousness, matter is merged back into consciousness. There's nothing apart from consciousness, and he gave it a name, Maya. What the Buddhists did was that they dispensed with the self. The self is Purusha. They dissolved the self, and what remained was a whirling mass of Prakriti. Change, always changing. So they took two tracks. One dissolving Prakriti and one dissolving Purusha. One became Buddhism and one became Advaita. So that is Mircea Eliade's take, what you are talking about. Cultural, suppose if I were to back up what you said, I would say culturally true, because the way I present Advaita, or way we see Advaita today, a traditional Vedantic Pandit would not do that. You see, if you ask a Vedantic Pandit, a Sanskrit scholar, a scholar of Vedanta, what is Advaita? He would say, no, this is all supporting stuff. The real thing is the Upanishad. They will go on the text. That if you ask, prove Vedanta, you know what a traditional scholar would do? He would not give these arguments. These would come much later. His primary argument would be something else. His primary argument will be, what is Vedanta? As I said, Vedanta nama Upanishad pramanam. Vedanta is the source of knowledge we find in the Upanishads. And then he will take up the Upanishads and use Vedantic exegesis, hermeneutics, which is called Mimamsa, textual interpretation, to show that if you skillfully interpret the text, rightly interpret the text, it gives up Advaita. It says it's Advaita. The texts support Advaita. Therefore, Advaita is the meaning of the Upanishads. And so I hold on to Advaita. Now, if you want arguments, I will give you a host of supporting arguments. Why I have dispensed with that central thing is two reasons. One is, immediately people will say, oh, you believe in a book, so you're talking about a book and you're trying to hold on to a book. cultural prejudice or a particular text. Others, and another thing will be, everybody is not familiar with the text there, because it's very involved discussion of the text. All right, so this is in support of what you are saying. As against that, what I would say is, you ask the logical question, what is the relationship between the experienced object and you, the experiencer? You can stop at Sankhya. There are two separate things which interact. But how do they interact? How can something as different as matter and as different as consciousness, how can they come in contact? Shankara's Adhyasa Bhashya in Brahma Sutra, in introduction, is groundwork for Advaita, asks, how can light and darkness come into contact? They are completely opposed. One is subject, one is object. One is the seer, other is the seen. One is unchanging, other is changing. One is consciousness, another is non-conscious. How can they even come in contact? Light and darkness cannot come in contact. When light comes, darkness will retreat. They do not come in contact. So then what is the answer? The answer, he says, and yet they seem to come in contact. Where? Consciousness is experiencing object, like Kapila said. If it is impossible, he says, it's impossible, the two are opposed, they cannot come in contact, and yet they seem to come in contact every day in our life, then there is what he calls, there is an error going on there. It is not that they are two separate things, they are one thing. Now, what is that one thing? A materialist would say, it is matter, and consciousness emerges from matter. That's the reductionist today. Advaita does the opposite. He says it is consciousness, and matter is an appearance in consciousness. Matter is Maya, consciousness is Brahman. It is an appearance in Brahman. Which one will we accept? Which one will we accept? Science seems to support the other one. The consciousness is the byproduct. Matter is real, and it has formed into planets and organic compounds. Then life has emerged. Living matter, bodies have evolved to sophistication, and in those sophisticated bodies, brains and nervous systems have evolved, and in the brains and nervous systems, an epiphenomenon byproduct is consciousness, which is now thinking, I am Brahman and all sorts of things. Nothing of the sort. You are nothing, you are just matter. Whirling protons and atoms and neutrons, that's all you are. That's the reductionist point of view. Why should we not believe that? Logically speaking, there is my favorite subject, hard problem of consciousness. David Chalmers, who is in New York in the NYU Mind Brain Science, Mind Brain Consciousness Unit, he has coined the term hard problem of consciousness. Show how a brain produces consciousness. Show it. Explain it. Cannot be explained. Not only there are a lot of theorists, neuroscientists, even philosophers who are saying, no, we can explain it. There are competing theories. All of them are wrong. Swami, how do you say something so boldly, all of them are wrong? Do you understand it all? No, not. I look for one thing. Are they saying it is matter and a product of matter? A product of matter can be only some kind of matter or process in matter. If they're saying that, some are saying it is the neurons firing, some are saying it is integrated information theory of Tononi, some are saying that even going to something like quantum physics to explain, all of it is matter, matter, matter. Where are you making the jump into consciousness? Somebody said, in the Bible, the water and wine, the miracle water changed into wine. Somebody said, we understand, in neuroscience, we understand the water, we understand the wine. In between is the miracle. We don't understand how it's happening. Hard problem of consciousness is where materialist reductionist theory grinds to a halt. Grinds to a halt. Cannot explain. Now another philosopher, Galen Strawson from the University of Texas, Texas, he has published a paper, The Hard Problem of Matter. Very interesting. He says there is no problem of consciousness. Consciousness, he's very Advaitic that way. Consciousness is, all of us are experiencing consciousness and only consciousness. All the time. What is there to explain? He says this question of hard problem of consciousness, this comes because we have taken it into our mind. Brain is somehow producing consciousness. I cannot explain how it's producing consciousness, so I'm calling it a hard problem of consciousness. But suppose you say consciousness is fundamental. and matter appears as the object of consciousness. You say, how is matter related to consciousness then? This whole question comes up. Then he says, yeah, that's the hard problem of matter. Advaita has a hard problem of matter. Science, materialism has a hard problem of consciousness. What is our direct experience? Consciousness. Yeah. Last one.
Swamiji, today we discussed about how we are not the body, how we are not the mind, which is related to subtle body, I would say. Body, subtle body, and the causal body. We know that the body, it's subjected to change, and one day passes, and it's clearly visible, and it's known, we see around. But how do we understand, or what causes the death of subtle body? Because once we understand that, the only thing left is...
What causes the death of subtle body? Advaita Vedanta says, or Upanishads say, the subtle body dies only after enlightenment, at enlightenment, knowledge. So, physical body dies at the end of each lifetime. And the subtle body, the Jivatma, it continues from lifetime to lifetime. And when you realize yourself as the Atman, then the subtle body, that particular body mind where you attain enlightenment, that will continue as long as prarabdha karma is there, the past karma. And then that past karma is exhausted, this particular body will fall, and the subtle body also will go back. It's also made of nature, Prakriti. So it will go back to nature. You remain as the unlimited consciousness. This is a story. Shankaracharya says even this is a story. Remember, from Ashtavakra's point of view, there is actually nothing like subtle body. There is nothing like physical body. This itself is Brahman. The table is nothing but wood. See, touch wood. I don't say touch table. And the wood is the deeper inner reality of the table, but this is table. No. Through and through it is wood. Through and through this is Brahman. There is no such thing as Swami Brahmananda said, show me the difference, the borderline between consciousness and matter. There isn't. Show me the borderline between wave and water. There isn't. Ashtavakra says there is no such thing as subtle body. There is no such thing as physical body or a physical universe. There is no such thing as material nature also. It's all Brahman and Brahman, consciousness and consciousness. It's all you. Yes, that's a good point to end. We'll discuss it later. Shanti Kondo. Yes. All right, ask the question. I don't know if I'll have time to answer it. Yes.
Swami, you've spoken in the past of the I of God. You said tonight, I am that consciousness. It is all I, or none of it is I. All is Brahman, or none of it is real. I am it, I am Brahman. You heard that? Brahman. I'm confused. My I and the I of God. I know it's Atman, I know all the things you've taught me, but I still get confused.
Yeah.
The I of God is something big. I want to grasp the higher bird in the tree.
Right. The I which we are talking about, just see that I am the witness of the I. One gets confused if one holds on to the ego, which is generated by this body-mind. Somebody told me yesterday in Santa Barbara, he is an Advaita teacher. He said, Swami, be careful. When you keep telling people your consciousness, your consciousness, your consciousness, what they will mostly grasp is the ego. No, it's not the ego. It's the witness of the ego. I don't think anybody here is making that mistake, that we are not the ego. The ego comes and goes. In deep sleep, the ego disappears. Where is the ego? That I is not us. The witness of the ego is us. We'll stop there. Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Tat Sat Shri Ram Krishna Arpanamastu. So there is a talk tomorrow at 11 o'clock right here, but not on Ashtavakra. That is on Manisha Panchakam, 5 verses on enlightenment, a composition by Shankaracharya. It's a very beautiful composition. And then 7:30 tomorrow, we will have the third session. We'll build upon what we did today. Any announcement?
Thank you for coming. Tomorrow also probably will come with a little more overflow, so we will have our overflow in the other room. But evening time, we'll have to use this hall only because there is another meeting going on there. So, and also tomorrow who come, particularly daytime, it is okay, you can park anywhere. But today also, be careful, after 10 o'clock, your cars will be towed away. So,
From Vine Street.
not from the parking
Not
lot.
from parking lot. Yeah.
But tomorrow, there will be little less space for the your car parking. But anyhow, wherever you park, be careful to take away before 10 o'clock. So that is second point. And tomorrow you are all invited, but we do not know how much food is there. Hope we will all manage. and then tomorrow, as I said, that evening time also, we in this room, so we'll have to come earlier to get your seats.
Thank you. Thank you.
Kirtan.
Good evening. Next Saturday we'll have Kirtan, call response training. Please come and join. Our singers will sing and then Quincy Coleman will be our guest singer. So please come in and get any questions.
Thank you, Swami. Swami.